Hey everybody, it's Shooter FPV and welcome to part 2 of my DabberX build. In this part, we are going to make it look like this. We're going to do the motors, the ESC, and the battery leads. I'll talk about how I mount the ESC and pretty much the whole stack in general, as you can see the longer screws here, and show you what these are, the little motor wire protectors, and yeah, and just explain why I do the things I do. So let's get to the bench and get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is how I mount a stack. First of all, I never use nylon screws because your first crash, they're going to break. And then you're going to have your flight controller here, your ESC here, everything's going to get all screwed up. So what I do is I put a screw right through from the bottom, up here, and I secure it as I move these rubber spacers out of the way. I secure it with I don't know if you can see it, just a simple nut to hold it real tight, so sucker ain't going anywhere. And I try to find a length that will fit the whole stack. The one thing I always stress is dry fit. Dry fit. Because you just never know how things are going to work out until you kind of get everything together. So, and with this frame, you got two 20 by 20. So the backside is going to be the flight controller and ESC, and the VTX on top. What I did was I actually, the VTX is 16 by 16. So I just printed a 16 by 16 to 20 by 20, and then it will sit actually right on top. And I kind of pre-measured it, and I'll have enough room where this will sit just enough in there. I mean, it's kind of tight because it's a 3D print, but just enough to put a nut on the top, and and I'll be good to go. So try to get this off here. So these rubber spacers, I mean, usually for an ESC I don't put them on there. I don't want them to be too soft mounted because they really don't have to be. It's your flight controller that is, more important to do that. But since it came that way, and it actually makes it, it gives me a good gap under there, but also the plug has a good gap, and even if I squish it down, you can kind of see that it doesn't matter if this plug touches the frame. It's only plastic anyway, but I still like that. I like airflow to go through it, so so this should work out. So what I usually do is, before I do the motors, I just take two, and usually metal, because they're too close to the motor when I solder them, so I don't like to use nylon anyway. But all I do is I just put these screws on to just hold the ESC down so it doesn't move. I mean, it probably won't, but I don't even really tighten it that much. I just do it by hand, and I just put one on. I just pick two corners and just put them on, just to hold it in place, because you never know. So see, it's not going anywhere. So the motors, as I outlined in the parts, the video before this, the parts and stuff, it's going to be the Newbie Drone Flow 1408 4150. Really nice motors, really nice. It's a T-mount with shaft, but that's okay. I got props for it. So the one thing that you need to really keep in mind is your screw height, because you don't want your screw to go too far through and hit the windings, because you'll short the motor out real quick, like super quick. So what I usually do is I will just put the screw just through one hole, and you can see it sticks up pretty nice. But what I also do is I also take the motor and line up one of the mounts with it, and you can see it won't even stick up through it, and it's got enough bite where it's going to hold the motor down pretty good. So these are actually 6mm screws, and I mean, I probably could go 7 just to get a little higher, but the 6 is fine, and it'll hold well. So what I'm going to do is I am going to mount. I'm going to do one motor and then cut back after. You know, I'll just do the other 3 off camera because it's all the same. Yeah, actually, I think as I go back into my tool drawer here, I think, yeah, these are 1.3 millimeter sockets on these things, which I didn't realize. So let me grab another one. Sorry about that. And at this point in time, I don't do them too tight. What I'm just doing is I'm just doing it to hold the motor on, so I know, you know, where the wires go. And what I usually do is I like to keep them nice and neat. I'll put the 3 in order. But what I also do is I have these 3D printed wire guards. I actually got them from Matt Gankman, who is an awesome frame designer. I have a couple of his frames, and what these are motor guards. I print them at TPU, and they're a little shorter than what he what he has. And what I had to do is I had to clip them because the distance here, I mean, they extended too far on either way, so I just clipped them. But I also, if you can kind of see, because like this is not just for a zip tie, what I did was I melted this up a little bit to kind of give it a tiny little bit notch for the zip tie so it wouldn't slip off the sides, which I don't think it will. But so I used to use tape, but now I like to use these because they're better protection than tape, and if the prop happens to hit it, it has more protection for the wires. So once the wires are in, I will zip tie those, and then what I'm going to do is, as you can see, I'm going to go on the inside of the standoff, and then I will solder them right there. So I'm gonna what I think I might do is what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this. Sometimes what I do is just temporarily I will tape, just a quick tape job of the wires just so they don't move around a lot. Nothing fancy. And what I usually use for tape, this is actually hockey stick tape. It's really flexible, as you can see, and the beauty of it is it sticks on itself really good. And my son's a hockey player, so I have tons of this in the house. So I'm just gonna do a quick wrap, nothing fancy, but just to hold it there so I know where they're gonna go. So what I'm gonna do is, before I solder, flux. This is a flux pen, really nice. What you do is just prime it a little bit and then just take the tip and just wipe it. You don't have to go crazy. It doesn't have to be dripping in flux, but it's still really handy to do that. So I'll just let that sit. Actually, what I probably should have done was I should have clipped the wires first. But what you want to do is you want to have a little bit of slack for the wires. You don't have to have a lot. This third wire is actually going to probably be not cut because it looks like it's a good distance, but the other 2 I most likely will. So what I'm going to actually do is, another tip is that if you get wires that are pre-soldered like these, like they have the factory solder on them, factory solder is usually crap. So what I do is I just touch them real quick with real solder, I like to call it. Oh, actually, the one thing I forgot, and I don't know how I forgot, well, I do know how I forgot because I hate them, is the power leads. I hate them because the negative one I always have an issue with, because the negative pads are really hard to solder because they're just so rooted in the board that it just takes a lot to do it. So, but I want to give it a shot here. And let's see, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit. I think that should be all right. Actually, I got to go this way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get some solder on here. Don't want to go too crazy. You don't want a huge blob, but see this negative pad. And my soldering iron's sticking to it. So let's try that. And maybe I'll get lucky. Oh, and the holes that you see are for the capacitor if you want to put it in that way, but I don't think I'm going to, because it's going to stick up too high. I don't think I'm going to have enough room in there. So we got options for that, but I'm going to cover that later on. So to avoid burning my hands, I will use some needle nose. And again, it might sound really stupid, but just double check and make sure where your plus and minuses are. This is my plus, that's my minus. Believe it or not, some people don't pay attention to the positive and negative. And then they wonder why their quad explodes when they put the battery in. So see that? That looks beautiful. But the negative is not going to look so beautiful. I can tell you that right now. For some reason, I just can't get enough heat in there. Right now my ESC is saying, stop, it's too hot, it's too hot. Yeah. That's so ugly, but it's I'll let it cool a bit. Just give a little pull to see. Yeah, that's kind of ugly, but maybe I'll just clean it up later. But so this one's nice. So, well, what are you gonna do? So what I'm gonna actually do is I need to figure out the length of my motor wires. I might end up just not even cutting them. Yeah, because it looks like I might just deal with it. Let's see, let's get this out of the way. I'm going to, yeah, I don't know. That's why you got to do your dry fit. You don't want to start snipping and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, it's too short. What am I going to do? So maybe what I'll do is, first of all, I'm going to not cut the third one, but I will put some solder on this one. Actually, what I got to do is, I've got to, let me put this over here. I got to put some solder because I put some flux on it. All right. And see, that looks really shiny. You want them shiny. You don't want them dull. Shinier the better. So what I think I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to do this first one. Ah, it's hiding on me. Darn it. Oop, what am I doing? And I don't think yeah, you know what? I'm not going to cut that one yet. But this one I may have to yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to cut it a little bit. Well, actually, I'm not. I'm gonna leave it just as is. Make this easy. How about that? All right. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I might end up redoing this bottom one here. It looks a little janky, but so I will now take the tape off. Actually, what I'll do is I'll zoom back out again. Let's take this tape off. Where is the Let's see. See how good the hockey tape sticks. I think it costs like $5-6 at your local sporting goods store. We have some stores that are strictly hockey out here, so a little bonus. You can get different colors, you can get designs on them. Alright, and I got a zip tie all set to go. And if this doesn't work out because of the way that I had to clip these things, then I'll go with just tape, which is fine. I just wanted to keep the orange theme. All right, there we go. Looks good, actually. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to do the other 3 motors, and we'll come back when that's done. All right, so we'll see you then. Okay, we are done. As you can see, I got the bleh, the motor wire guards on, zip tied. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. I think they're going to be fine. Motors in. I had to change the screws out because the ones I was using were just trash. They were awful. So luckily I had some extras. So they're in nice and tight. You can see, not my best work, but it's shiny. Shiny's what you want. I tried to redo the negative battery lead, but the more I did, the worse it got. But I mean, it'll hold, it's fine, but I just hate them. So all right, so this is it for this this part. We got the motors on and the ESC soldered up. So in the next part, I'll throw on the flight controller and we will do the receiver crossfire, and I actually have a 20x20 crossfire holder, which will go here, but we'll talk about that next time. And that's it. So rips and packs, try not to crash, and we will see you next time.